Testing. Hello everyone, thank you for coming out for the last leg of Home Run for Julian. We're just waiting on the Shiftons to get here, but it's a great turnout so far. It's beautiful.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Say thank you to Paula for doing such a wonderful job. Yeah, you're the best, Paul.
Thank you, Josh. How are you? Oh, I love that you're in that chair. That makes me happy.
Yeah, we're just here to raise awareness about Julian Assange and his case. The United Kingdom and the United States are trying to extradite him over to the United States from Belmarsh Prison in the UK, where they're trying to charge him with the Espionage Act, and they're gonna send him to prison for the rest of his life. And that's just not right. And if we turn around, right there, we have the arrival of the two Shiftons, and that's what they're doing. Glad they're here. But yeah, it's just, this is a fundamental case to all of our civil rights, whether that be just an everyday citizen or a journalist that's just talking about the news day to day. So it's important that all of us understand what's happening to Julian, and we all speak out against it, because we cannot let them silence dissent. If we question the narrative, then we have to be able to have our point of view put out there. We can't just have it silenced. So I think that's what Julian Assange represents.
Right.
Good. I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything.
Let Jordan play there for a second. We'll get everybody else set up.
Hey, Gabriel. Misty from Columbus. Good to see you again.
Hello.
Jordan.
Hello. Hi everyone.
That's you can leave it there. I'll watch it. So I'm looking at it, but I know what I'm supposed to do.
Let's see. Hi. My name's Jordan Renee, and I have been working with DC Metro for Assange section about 2 months ago, and it has really been a wonderful ride. And swinging on this momentum that we've been noticing, and with the great help of the Home Run for Julian tour, I really am feeling very, very confident, especially with the news we got recently about the witness and air quotes. So I've always wanted to blend my music with my activism, and so I'm really glad I can do that here today. Here's some songs. First one, Hide Your Kids, it's called Don't Give a Fuck. So. You don't give a fuck. Woman who tries you don't give a fuck. August lies, you don't give a fuck. give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. They'll send you to war. They don't give a fuck. They'll send your ass to fight their wars. They don't give a fuck. Oh, but you come back from war, you're either broken or dead. They don't give a fuck. Just ask them. Their answer is no. No. Won't take your ass back. We don't give. Oh, I said we won't die in your wars. We don't give a fuck. Give my taxes back and go. Go. We're killing children no more. No more. Gas is lighting no more. More. Your abuse is too old. Too old. We don't give a fuck. You're all the same. We don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck. I'm desperate for a change, so I don't give a shit about you. There's no one left to lose. I don't give a fuck about your net worth. You say you better not give out. Okay, my standards now are high. That was called Don't Give a Fuck. Is it possible we could turn the mic up a little bit so my neck? Just it was written out of thinking about, this was before everything went down in 2020. This was written January 2020, before my heart was completely shattered by politics. But it's abuse cycle that we go through, and we see it in so many things. So I find it that it's very important that we look at the abuse cycles in our own lives and see how that relates to the collective and politically, because they're using the same patterns, the same tactics, the same emotional manipulation tactics. So that's where that came from. Next song, and I'll just do one or two more. That's so much better.
Yeah.
I think if it's like it up to me, as
Tell me how you.
because you can hear the guitar, right? Okay, yeah, so it's level bass. Okay. The lyrics are where it lies. So this one's called Sheepskin. This was written April 2020. I was living alone in quarantine in Miami, no AC, and I'd just gone back from visiting someone because I was going a little crazy. And I think by that time everything had gone to the shitter in the Democratic primary, and I just wanted to go. I just wanted to go somewhere, get out of my house, and, you know, really, I've known it for a while, but the Democratic Party is really a wolf in sheep's clothing party. And I just started thinking about all the predators. Like, I just want to go out into nature. And I'd rather be around actual wolves than have anything to do with the fucking party system. Or depend on them, or have any need for them. I'd literally rather be around predators, actual predators, in nature and feeling free. So that's sort of where this is coming from. This is called Sheepskin. This is also my first time performing with guitar, so just bear with me. All right. Okay. Thank you all. Awesome. I'm running to the mountains where the wolves won't go. I'm moving to the valley where the lions won't roar. I'm not a game no more. Oh, the sheepskin see no more. No. I'm swimming to the ocean where the sharks won't bite. I'm taken to the grasslands where the oldest won't fight. Oh, I'm not a game no more. Oh, the sheepskin say no more. No. I'm walking to the desert where the vultures won't fly. I'm digging through the tundra where the foxes can hide. Oh, I'm not a game no more. Oh, the sheepskin see no more. No. I'm hiking through the forest where the hawks won't snatch me. I'm gliding on the river where piranhas won't snap. Oh, I'm not a game no more. Oh, the sheepskin sing loud. I ain't got no straight no more. Oh, my shackles on the floor. I'm not a slave no more. Oh, you know escape no more. And now my freedom's won. Oh, with my family, I'm one. Alright, so for this last one, this one for sure goes out to Julian Assange. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So this one's really quick. It's just playing Amazing Grace. Because I wish that for Julian right now. I wish Mercy. I'm so glad he's going to be able to see his 50th birthday. I thank him so much for what he's done because, as he says, leaks stop wars, and I just wish Mercy and Gracie, grace and mercy for everyone. So yeah, just real quick. had saved a wretch like me. Was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but thank you, everyone. Happy birthday, Julian.
I know, go.
Okay, everybody, so the shift-ins unfortunately are on limited time, so we have a couple things that we want to present them with today. So where's Paula? Paula, my love. I'm not presenting. Oh, I'm just going to help you. Morning, man. She's right here. So if I could get John and Gabriel to come up, please. And thank you, kind sir. And thanks for everybody for coming out. I know it's really hot. We appreciate you being here to stand in defense of Julian Assange and the future of press freedom. So yeah, thanks for coming out here on this really ridiculous, sweaty day. Do you want to get microphone or microphone?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay. I feel it with the minute.
I'll take the microphone, that's fine.
Got it? Okay, so John, Gabriel, we wanted to get you something to commemorate your trip through the United States. So I managed to find an amazing company called Engraved to Last. They didn't ask me to say this, but they were able to get these to me in 24 hours. So if you ever need anything engraved, please go to them. They're amazing. So we got each of you, Paula has them, a baseball bat since the tour is home run themed. It has a picture of the logo. It has a list of all of the cities, all the cities they joined, and it also has a quote from Julian Assange.
It's my favorite quote.
My favorite quote of all time. And so here, if I can just steal that for a second, so I don't want to mess it up. That is my temperament. I enjoy creating systems on a grand scale, and I enjoy helping people who are vulnerable, and I enjoy crushing bastards. And that's a quote from Julian Assange, and so we wanted to present those to you as a commemorative, something that you can take home and remember your tour through the United States. So thank you very much for coming to the States and helping us raise awareness and try to get some support for Julian. We really appreciate it.
And then also, when we did our first event as Action for Assange last year, this side, in February 2020, we brought this flag out. I think pretty much everyone here has already signed it. The intention was someday we would get it into the hands of Julian Assange, and then this is the 2021 side, because we've been to a number of other places this year. There is no doubt in my mind that we will have to get another one of these and do this process all over again. However, I do feel like it will be the last time that we have to do this. We have seen incredible momentum just in the last month since John and Gabriel have been in the country. There have been some earth-shattering revelations in this case. Who would have known? A pedophilic sociopath who was arrested for embezzling and impersonating another human being would have fabricated his testimony. Who knew? Who could have thunk? At any rate, I know you guys got to catch an interview in a plane. but I wanted to make for absolute sure that this got into your hands, John, because who better than to deliver it than Julian's father? So I appreciate it so much, guys, so much. Thank you. And I don't know if you want to say a few words before you get on the road, but you're more than welcome to.
Gee, Stephen, it's just a real pleasure to be here. This this trip across continental United States, the response has been astonishing, and it just rolls on rather like rolling thunder, getting bigger, stronger, firmer, and the depth of support amongst the people of the United States is just astonishing and staggering. And I go home with a thought in mind that if we're going to come back again, which we may not have to because your support has been like tremendous, if we're going to come back again, we'll get a couple of RVs and do a proper tour with put livery on them and get Stephen to sign them, everybody sign them as we go along. But essentially, you know, what is the upwelling we've experienced is concern amongst the people of the United States, the people of the continental United States, for their treasures. And that treasure in particular, I've said it over and over again, that treasure is the First Amendment, because the First Amendment in 1793 attached to the United States Constitution holds within it the essence of understanding that freedom only comes through knowledge. Knowledge brings freedom. This is the extraordinary gift and understanding of Jefferson and his friends, that to have freedom you need knowledge. And to protect that freedom, you need an amendment to the Constitution of the United States. And that understanding has spread right around the world, and many countries these days copy it. Equally, a great treasure is the Bill of Rights. We don't have a Bill of Rights in Australia, and every election the parliamentarians squabble about, yes, we'll do it next week, or maybe the week after. But I guess we'll get one eventually. So I congratulate and thank the United States for this very fine example of the understanding that you can only be free if you know stuff. And that is essentially the motivation of Julian Assange and Chelsea Manning. That under those documents, the Iraq War files, the Afghan war logs, the Guantanamo detainee files, and what do they call it, the cables, that understanding in there has seeped through over a 10-year period into the culture. It's become enculturated in the United States, in the people. And that's percolated up into the Congress. Now the Congress, being a power body, is not going to make a fuss about it and say that, oh, we've seen the light. But what they have done is obeyed the people of the United States, and they're out of Afghanistan. They're getting out of Afghanistan. That's brought about by those leaks that Chelsea Manning brought to Julian Assange and was published on WikiLeaks, and they're still there to this day. They're out of Guantanamo Bay. It's on the cusp of being abandoned. That insult to the people of the United States, that disgrace and offence of all of those 800 men locked up there forever. The great American lawyer Clive Stafford Smith set up an NGO called Reprieve, and using the Guantanamo Bay files, got the freedom of many people who were wrongly interred there being closed as a result of the leaks, as a result of the publishing on WikiLeaks. The Iraq War's finished. There was no United States troops there. and that country struggles getting up off its knees after all this 20 years. One of the architects departed this earth yesterday, Donald Rumsfeld, and he's gone down to the place down there. If there is one, he's the prime occupant. So I congratulate him. I know it sounds excessive me to congratulate the people of the United States, but I congratulate myself, Julian, Chelsea, Gabrielle, and all of us who have made it possible by learning what was in the files, in the Iraq war files, in the Afghan war files, in the Guantanamo Bay detainee files, learning what's in there and understanding from the First Amendment the embrace, almost sacred, that knowledge has brought us freedom. Thank you very much, everybody, and hope to see you under different circumstances. Maybe we'll call it a victory tour or something like that, and make it a bit of fun. Thank you.
I'll just say thank you. You know, it's so heartwarming just to see all the familiar faces that we've met around the place. Just a big thank you to everyone for everything you've done while we've been here and all the effort that's been put in to free Julian. I think John talks to Julian every day and lets him know what we've all been up to here, and it really means a lot to him and keeps him going. Where he is. This is great. I love this. Yeah, Paula, well done. This is fantastic. It's very nice. But yeah, just big thank you. And we're going back to Australia now. But I think you all can see what's been happening here while we've been here. The momentum that's been built up. And just this Torderson's recanting his witness statement just this week is just another one of those dominoes falling, and with the momentum that all of you have contributed to, it's just going to keep going. There's just going to be more and more of these things coming, and it'll all just lead to Julian's freedom. Thank you.
That's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Justice for Julian. Justice for Julian. We shall not be moved. Can't hear you. Justice for Julian. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Justice for Julian. Justice for Julian. Justice for Julian. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not. Drop all charges. Drop all charges. We shall not be moved. Drop all charges. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. 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 Just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be. Just like a tree, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Hello, everybody.
Everybody, all of you, Morgan, everybody, okay? All of you. Everybody in, everybody in.
Okay, we need to get closer together.
Randy, hey.
We make a line of 2 or 3. Everybody on the 2, 3 on the sides, a bit in closer, maybe in front. That would be great. I'm gonna put my mask on. Can we squeeze in a little bit? Maybe one more line in front. Can we have that? Oh yeah, there we go. Make a big one for each other. Big group.
Better? No shame in the first row.
Whoever's camera is this, is it alright we move that for 2 seconds?
Franco!
Thanks. We can just move it back a bit when it's good. Yeah. Alright. Great.
Free Julian.
Free Julian.
Hey, Julian.
Great.
There's only one decision.
No extradition!
Let's hear it. There's only one decision.
No extradition!
There's only one decision.
No extradition!
There's only one decision.
No extradition!
Free Julian Assange.
Free Julian Assange!
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Thank you. John, I know you have to go. Thank you so much for coming.
Candra's present.
Oh, great. We have one more present. I forgot.
Niels, I want a picture of the three of you.
Alright.
Seriously, you were so awesome. You did so many beautiful.
see you.
It's good to see you.
So sweaty, so you don't want
Oh,
to talk there.
Where's Code Pink? Code Pink! Allie! No.
Steve, right? You just put me on the...
Want to get a picture? Okay, Code Pink, Code Pink for you. What do you want for back?
With speakers, you want a microphone in your mouth or your face?
Say your goodbyes, and then we got more work to do. Hi,
I told her all about it.
Yeah, no, that's hey, that's fun. It is, yeah, thank you. Especially given how hot
Oh, you didn't need that.
No, it's fine.
Are we in your way?
I love your
I don't
YouTube
know.
channel, by the way.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
I really appreciate that. You guys aren't in the way, though. Like,
I think we're going to see that photo of us on Twitter.
I'm glad we
Franco, are you going to speak to my friend, I assume?
yeah, I'll speak. Yeah.
Are you going to speak or just sing? Yeah, okay. Who wants to
I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm just going to say
Feel
something.
so nervous.
Yeah, I was asking,
When
but
they come in.
I have too much anxiety. I can never speak. Yeah, no way. But hats off to you guys. You guys are
Thank
doing
you.
the real work.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome.
We can't do it without your support.
I'm not gonna not. I didn't know I didn't prepare. No, I've been overwhelmed with a lot of shit.
Look at that guy.
See, it's like I always like sad when I prepare for shit, and then I'm just like, can you hand me my sign there? No, improv.
What do you mean? I was like, I don't know where you stole this from.
Oh no, I gave that.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not that good.
Yeah.
Almost.
I just couldn't remember it.
Oh, yeah, back then, yeah. And I could,
I'll have a phone.
oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, just the acceptance of maybe really getting there, like, developing.
Learning how to work around it.
Yes.
We all kind of work together.
It's almost like a strength. Like I like being fucking. They're so cool.
So we're still gonna have people speak and stuff too.
Oh yes, thank you. Let's see if she's coming. No, I mean, the backdrop is important.
Are you gonna do a podcast with kind of sort of. Oh.
I thought it was 12 to 2. But maybe they have to. They're going to be speeches.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
One more
See, that's the thing. I want to get. I used to rely.
Thank you, Code Pink.
Like, I want to learn how to do it.
Don't cover it.
All right.
Live videos in there. You pull up the web.
Oh, okay.
Awesome, Code
It's about,
I have some funny middle school.
of course, yes.
Me making those videos.
Really nice. Thank you, Code Pink. Really nice.
Not enough. And apparently they have a birthday
Don't get in front of me.
I'm in trouble again. What, that person? Yeah.
All right, we're doing it. There you go. Thanks for the fellas.
Nice. Really nice. You should have had a spot to sing.
No.
Get in with you. It's too late. You want to have some mic? I was at Grazie. Are you really immersed?
That's awesome. Awesome. You got to.
Oh yeah, dude.
You want to talk about how that was?
Yeah, I'm like real excited, man. Like this turnout, it was like beyond what I could have expected. Paula, Steve Boykin, Misty, Jordan, Kobe, all these people. Like I can't even tell you. Without them, this is not happening. I mean, this is amazing. Seriously. I'm so honored, honestly, that the Shiptons made it out here because they have so many other things that they would rather be doing than being in front of the Department of Justice trying to fight for their son's freedom. But they made it out there, and we got to give them the flag. That's awesome.
So the Shiptons have to take off.
You got to hug them.
Have
You got to hug them.
We still have a number of people who are going to speak.
I got to talk to them.
I
got
see
to
that
thank
no
them.
campus
I got
at the building.
to like really actually talk to them about like why Julian
so-
is not a deity. It's
Don't-
what he
don't
stands
fucking go
for
anywhere.
and how it threatens us as
Fucking
just normal
captive.
people. So it's like it's a real special thing, you know. And these are normal people with a child who's being prosecuted. If you were them, you would be doing the same thing. So.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Glad you could come out too, dude.
Of course, brother.
Yeah,
I'm glad to be out here.
Yeah, I don't. You're gonna say something? I can get the.
Yeah,
camera.
I'll speak.
Okay.
Like when it's time for me to like go up there.
Yeah, let me know. I got you. Dude, we can't.
Oh yeah, so just arrived.
Talking about that. Apparently, crystal ball's coming too.
Oh, for real.
Crazy. Yeah.
Okay, everybody, we are gonna have some people come out and speak, and talk on about how important this is. Hey, is anybody paying attention to me, or am I talking to myself? Yes. Hi. Now? Hi, guys. Okay. Okay. Now can you hear me better? Yeah. I don't know whose phone this is, but I got it. Whoever's it is. Okay, here you go. Got it. Okay. So we are going to have some speakers come up now to discuss the case, the developments in it, and what you can do to help Julian Assange. First, we have, crazy man, host of the Slow News Day show, my dear friend Steve Boykin.
Wow, it's DC again. This feels incredibly, frighteningly, oppressively authoritarian, familiar. I would like to thank everybody that's come out today. This is monumentally important. We'd like to give everybody right now give a huge round of applause to the Shiptons for their trip. They had a solid month of, I think, 17 stops. That's insane. That is absolutely great. What's even crazier than the fact that two Australians were in the United States explaining to Americans how the First Amendment works is that their son and brother sits in an English prison for 23 and a half hours a day in solitary confinement because he published verifiably accurate information about the U.S. war machine, how it operates, and the significant waste, fraud, and abuse on top of the ceaseless slaughter of civilians the U.S. empire engages in on a day-to-day basis. What Julian Assange, what WikiLeaks have done is allow us to view the world from primary sources instead of having multi-millionaires tell us how we need to think and feel about news that they do not want us to have access to. This is fundamentally ridiculous. This is at its core the root of oppression, narrative management. Here's the thing. If Julian Assange is allowed to be prosecuted, if he's allowed to be extradited to the United States and go through a kangaroo trial in the Eastern District of Virginia, an espionage court, that's the end of all activism. That's the end of all free press, all independent press. Activism hinges on our ability to get information to people, into people's hands that don't already know it, that may not be on board with everything that we're on board with. So as activists, no matter what your cause is, the free press is vital. The struggle to free Julian Assange belongs to everyone. There's no politics here. There's no partisanship here. This is people gathering for common cause and common purpose so that when we secure a free press, then we can devolve into petty squabbles over party. But until we need everyone on board with one voice saying, free Julian Assange. So free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Misty, who am I bringing up now? So you don't have to chant that.
Josh, you want to come
Yeah, Morgan.
John, you go first.
No.
Josh Davis, who is with DC Metro for Assange, will now take the megaphone. Please give him a big round of applause. Thank you very much for putting this all together and assisting Josh. You rock. Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange.
Alright guys, thank you for coming out today. It's an amazing turnout. The Shiptons were just here. I really can't thank them enough for making it out here. It's just important that everybody starts talking about this case, whether it's with the person who is completely on the other side of the aisle with you, or it's someone that you talk about politics with every day, or someone that you work with. Just get the word out. If you start talking about it with the people that you know, then the people that they know start to be aware of it too. So you have to affect your immediate circle before you can actually make a big change. So the only way that we can do this is together and just raising awareness. The point is about Julian Assange's case is they just want to make an example out of him. He's done nothing wrong. In 11 or 12 years that WikiLeaks has been open, there has not been a single retraction of their story. But they don't talk about that. They want to smear him and they want to discredit him every single way that they can. But it's very hard. And that's why there's so many people like us that are fighting back and becoming aware of our own voices and the threat to ourselves. Because don't get it wrong, when they prosecute Julian Assange, they prosecute us. So we have to stand up and we have to resist it. So, free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange.
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange.
All right, Morgan, your turn. Okay,
She's signing things. Frankie!
Kobe.
Okay, Kobe.
This is Kobe. How you guys doing today? Alrighty, so I'm going to tell the story from a little bit more of like a personal angle of self-censorship. So, in 2016, I used to share the WikiLeaks emails on a regular basis on social media. You know, I thought of myself what I would call a citizen journalist. So I wasn't at an outlet or anything. I did study journalism in school, but it was more of a just, you know, I'd go to events on my own, I'd videotape occasionally, I'd write some commentary about it. And so I remember when the DNC leaks came out in 2016, you know, I was really heavy on covering it. I would share all the emails every day about, you know, DNC corruption. And I thought it was really telling that instead of confronting the evidence that was in these emails, there's never been anything proven wrong in WikiLeaks emails, you know, they would respond with, anybody sharing this is just a, you know, unwitting agent of Russia, you know, don't read the emails, it's all Russian, don't read it. And that campaign lasted for like 4 or 5 years. You know what I mean? And I, at the time, I was 19, I didn't really know what I was doing. You know, I just kind of like shut up for a little bit. You know, after the election happened and mainstream media kind of shifted towards the Trump impeachment story and all that stuff, you know, I got scared, oh gosh, they're going to call me a treasonous traitor and they're going to like, you know, do the same thing they're doing to Julian to me. You know, and so 4 years later, finally, I think everybody's starting to get the Russiagate out of the way. They know that that was kind of a propaganda storyline that was out there to silence dissent, like it effectively did to me for 4 years. And I'm sure there are a lot of other people out there, and especially people who are in corporate media, who they have their bosses telling them not to cover these stories from certain angles. You know, they are still self-censoring to this day. And I think that if they successfully prosecute Julian Assange for releasing the classified information, for publishing it, you'll see journalists on a mass scale, even more than they already are self-censoring. It'll be even more fear of self-censorship. And so that's why I think, you know, not only should Julian Assange not be extradited to the US, but that judge in the UK should get rid of the precedent that you can have a journalist extradited internationally to the US. It can't just be a human rights case, although, you know, the US criminal justice system is terrible, you know, there are tons of human rights abuses. It has to go further. It has to not set that precedent against the international free press. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a terrible MC, fans. Okay, thanks, Kobe. Next, we have Morgan Archikina, who is a journalist, an amazing friend of mine, longtime supporter of Julian Assange. So give it up for Morgan.
Yeah.
Woo, Morgan!
Hi, folks. It's working? They work?
We have batteries.
Good hole. Trigger. Try again?
We got more batteries. Hold on.
I'm good at breaking things. I sabotaged it. Well, down.
There you go. Morgan, there's the mic.
I got it.
Oh, yeah, there's the mic. Okay, whatever.
Hi folks, my name is Morgan. I'm a journalist. I've been covering the Assange case for a long time and a lot of other similar cases. And I'm also a member of the Answer Coalition, and Answer stands for Act Now to Stop War and End Racism. And that's obviously Julian Assange's case is one that we are very concerned about because it's really, that was a big move, because it's really central to the mission of stopping wars. Of course, everybody knows the quote by Assange about how if lies can start wars, truths can create peace. But there's another part to that quote that is less often talked about, and that is where he talks about all of the journalists who help make a war happen, the pro-war journalists who don't criticize the evidence given to them and question and challenge, and by not doing so, help to allow a war to happen. And of course, yesterday, Donald Rumsfeld died, one of the chief architects of the Iraq War, a war in which the media infamously refused to do its job. The few people who did speak out or did even dare to question the narrative of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and the PNAC blitz against all manner of independent nations, were quickly silenced, taken off the air, and whatever. And so the other half of that quote by Assange is he talks about what is the body count of each journalist who refuses to do their job, who refuses to challenge the existing narrative, who refuses to challenge what the ruling class is telling us is the reasons that they have to go and blow up another country. And it's the U.S. militarism, it's the U.S. empire, and its $750 billion annual military machine, which doesn't even include the nuclear weapons budget, that makes that possible. And it allows the U.S. to behave as if it is the global policeman. And I can't think of a better example of how the U.S. behaves as if it's a global policeman by getting the United Kingdom to arrest an Australian national because he broke a U.S. law. I mean, the idea that the U.S. law, that the U.S. system of justice, or the U.S. anything, values anything, extends across the entire globe is just the height of presumption. It's the height of empire. And so this fighting against that, fighting against the U.S.'s ability to punish people from all around the world whenever they do something the U.S. doesn't like, to throw them in a U.S. prison for 175 years is an essential part of any anti-imperialist project. And so I am so gratified to be up here today because I've been covering the movement to free Assange for many years now, and this is probably the most people I have ever seen here outside of the DOJ coming out on such an awfully hot day as this. So yeah, you all should give yourselves a round of applause because you are doing the work, we are doing the work. It's like Josh said, you have to talk to people who don't agree with you, you have to talk to people, spread the word, and challenge the existing narrative just like Julian has done, just like WikiLeaks does every day, just like they are trying to stop us from being able to do. So thank you, all of you, for continuing to do what you do. Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Okay, everybody, thank you, Morgan. That was amazing. Up next, we have an activist, a journalist. He's a radio show host. He once got kicked out of the White House Correspondents' Dinner for demanding that they cover Julian Assange, which was bad fucking ass. Everybody welcome Randy Credico.
Thank you. Do I really need this thing? I'm too tired. I'm too hot. I should have dressed like you guys. Chill out. I didn't want John Shipton to be the only one with a tie on. So once in a while you gotta say, you're right, John, let's wear a tie. Hi, everybody. I'm Randy Credico. I don't know if that was so good, Morgan, and everybody else. You pretty much have summed up everything about the case against Julian Assange. We know that the whole thing is a farce. What is that?
Oh, okay. I'll start again. Hi, everybody. I'm Randy Credico. I'm an alcoholic. Hi. Oh, wrong meeting. That's the one across the street. Anyway, where is Max? Got to hang out with him again. Listen, it's great to be here today, and I really am encouraged by the big turnout. I know I've been at vigils in London. They're getting bigger. I've been in New York City. They're getting bigger, and this is what it's going to take. I just interviewed John Pilger for Saturday, and that's exactly what his message at 6 p.m. on WBAI or Assange Countdown to Freedom. And that's really important that many people get out here. You have, we need, as Al Lewis, Grandpa Munster used to say, the asses of the masses. Now I want to talk about someone in here, Vanita Gupta, who I know very well. She's third in line at the Department of Justice. Third in line, Vanita Gupta. I worked in Tulia, Texas back in 2000 for the Kunstler Fund for Racial Justice. And she came in a couple years later. We got so much press there. We got monumental press. 46 African Americans who were shanghaied into the racist criminal justice system in this little city 40 miles west of Amarillo. So they were rotting away, and we worked, and the Times came down there, the press came down there, and they covered it. She came in towards the end and filed an appeal. But if you take a look at her record, you would think she was there from the beginning. She came there, and it was a great career move. She is now third in line here. And why is she third in line there? Is because of the press. The free press covered that case down in Tulia, Texas. If they didn't, if the press was out of action, if the press was repressed, she would have never been known. She got a lot of press out of that, and now it has catapulted her third in line in the Justice Department. And I want you to remember that name, Vanita Gupta. Write her a letter, email her, write a letter here, because if she, in that position, you guys know Vanita Gupta, in that position allows Julian to be extradited here, it destroys her entire career and her work in Tulia, Texas. So remember that name, and I hope that she does the right thing. I really don't have much to add, except for just keep doing this. People get out here as much as you can, spread the word out there. Let's not be argumentative with other people. Try to entice them with love, you know, and reason, and get people out there on the streets. It can work. It worked in Tulia. It worked in New York State with the Rockefeller drug laws. We were like 6 people in 1997 outside of Rockefeller Center. 6 years later, those laws were changed because thousands of people were on the street. They thought it was impossible, but it can happen. It happened in Tulia, it happened up there in New York, and it can happen for Julian, but you just got to keep organizing. You got to stick to it. As Cornel West said yesterday, during the abolition movement in 1840, people like Theodore Parker and Frederick Douglass and Lydia Child, all these abolitionists in the 1840s, the press wasn't interested in what they had to say. But 15 years later, the movement was huge, and it led to the Civil War and the 13th Amendment. So it is possible. You just got to keep moving and moving and moving and go forward, and don't be discouraged. This is the most important case going on right now. This is the most important case here in the 21st century, and it has implications for everybody. It really does. There'll be no, if he goes, guess what happens? Everybody else goes. Everybody else goes, and then who? Without Julian Assange, how would we know about what happened to Leonard Peltier, or what happening right now to Mumia? There are a lot of political prisoners, but without a press, without a free press, we won't know about them. And there won't be one if Julian Assange goes down. So please, keep that First Amendment alive. All right? Thank you very much. And let's free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you all for your work. Really great.
Thank you, Randy. That was incredible. Give it up for Randy Credico, everybody. All right, coming up next, we have, you know him, you love him. He's the host of Redacted Tonight. He's an activist, a journalist, comedian. He's hilarious, and his name is Lee Camp.
Thanks. Hey, everybody, it's good to see you out here. This is important. This is exciting. You know it. This is honestly, like, it's amazing to see the energy continue to see the energy continue. They've suppressed us online. You type Assange in a title and it doesn't get shown to anybody. And still we're here and still we say free Assange. They have beaten people in the streets and still we're here and we say free Assange. They have arrested people for standing there and demanding that we free Assange, and still we're here and we say free Assange. They have sentenced whistleblowers to dozens and years in prison, and still we're here and we say free Assange. It's incredible to see everybody out here. It's incredible the energy online, and they could drop these charges. They could drop it all right now, and Assange would be free. These motherfuckers right here. I'm sorry, what's the politically correct term? These mother and father fuckers right here could release him right now if they just drop the appeals, and they should. And honestly, like. We look at our ruling elite and who they worship and who they imprison, you know, who they look up to versus who they lock in a cage. And it's so clear what they stand for. Donald Rumsfeld is now dead, but he was free his entire life, all right? He was free, he was rewarded, he was awarded, he was held up. If you read the New York Times article yesterday on Donald Rumsfeld, you'll see words like distinction, you'll see words like powerful and combative and strength and how he led people in a scary time. You'll see all of that shit for a war criminal. However, Julian Assange, who did nothing but reveal the truth to us, is imprisoned right now. Julian Assange and never reported a single false thing at WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks has never fucking gotten something wrong. Compare that to the record of the entire mainstream media. Whether you like them or hate them, they get shit wrong all the time, and they know it, they retract stuff. WikiLeaks has never retracted a goddamn thing, and he's imprisoned for getting it all right. For getting it all right, and for telling us what was going on with our governments and governments around the world. People want to portray him as, oh, he was just an anti-American crusader. He revealed the truth about governments around the world, and for that, he is imprisoned. And again, to go back to the people they worship, the people, our ruling elite and our media and the Justice Department hold up as a successful human being, as an impressive human being. It's Joe Biden, it's George W. Bush, who has now had his brand rejuvenated. And you can watch the video from a couple of years ago, Joe Biden putting the Medal of Liberty, I think it's called, around George W. Bush's neck, with applause and an audience in Philadelphia. War criminals like George W. Bush are getting awards put around their neck while Julian Assange is imprisoned in England. It's infuriating, and it's really honestly true. I know it's something that we just say and we move on and we say and we don't think about what it really means. But until he is free, none of us are free, because it shows what is done to those who speak the truth. It shows what is done to those who stand up and call the war criminals out. And so until he is free, we are all imprisoned in one form or another. Our souls are, our beings. He represents so much more than just himself. I'm sure he'd say the same thing. It's not just about him. It's about the idea. It's about the idea of revealing the truth, of telling us what is being done in our name, of telling us about the millions being killed in our name. And that's what he did. And before that, he has received the reward of being locked away in a cage. And until he is free, none of us are truly free. And I know you all know that, but we've got to keep saying it. We've got to keep fighting. We've got to keep the energy up. So thank you all for being here. And free Assange!
Thank you, Lee Camp. Give it up for Lee, everybody. It's amazing. Okay, coming up next, we have amazing journalist, badass all around, from the Gray Zone, Max Blumenthal.
Thanks. We got some more Gray Zone representation we can hear from, too. That was a pretty hard act to follow. Man, I feel like Jerry Lee Lewis after Chuck Berry or something. I don't know if you'll... But how about those defensive strikes on Iraq and Syria? Yeah. And we're all mourning the 100th anniversary of the CCP, which is going to take us over. Donald Rumsfeld was a complex man, undermined by the Iraq War. He was that was literally a headline. I'm just rattling off headlines from the media that exists in the wake of WikiLeaks. It's just an upside down perspective on reality. And I'll pretty much just say what I said yesterday before an unpacked audience at the National Press Club. Leo was there. I don't know who else was there, but basically you tried to get it. Yeah, if you weren't, I hope that whoever had this mic before me was vaxxed, and you all are standing too close to me, and I need to be in like a survival suit or whatever, because they weren't letting people in without vaccination passports or whatever. But I got in just because I'm like the elite, which is pretty much how the vaccination passport regime will work in the future. Like, that's the Great Reset. Anyway, so yeah, I went into the National Press Club, very esteemed institution. It's where the Beltway Press Corps hangs out. Went to the First Amendment Lounge, which is where Julian Assange released Digital Murder. This horrific scene, let's not forget, that shows journalists being murdered by the US military. Journalists being murdered. Why? Why? Because they're carrying sticks. These are guys from Reuters with these sticks, and they decided those were guns and they were militants. You are all insurgents who could be mowed down by a helicopter in Iraq. That's who is on film in Collateral Murder, Digital Murder. It was Digital Murder. It wasn't even Collateral. Was it Collateral? It wasn't Collateral. They were targeted. They're like, all right, we got more. Like, just keep the fire trained on those journalists. So
Get those dead bastards.
Get those dead bastards, not even human. And that was such shocking footage to me. And then something like 10 years later, Julian Assange's father, John Shipton, is on stage talking about what it's like for Julian to meet his son in prison and to see his son be orally searched by guards, and who's 2 years old, who gags when they reach in his mouth as if he's gonna slip Julian Assange a hacksaw so he can saw out of prison, and that if Julian reacts, he gets bundled by the guards and 6 guards tackle him. Imagine meeting your son like that. So that's what took place in that 10-year span, from administration to the Assange family. And it was so painful to listen to and painful to see the lack of support from media. Now, I was mentioning the National Press Club. When I walked in, there were signs everywhere calling to free a journalist. Not Julian Assange, Austin Tice. I don't know anything about Austin Tice. I know he was a former US Marine. He was in Syria. He was there without permission from the government during a dirty war. I don't believe he's alive anymore. But there are signs everywhere because Austin Tice can be used as a political pawn in a dirty war against an official US enemy. There are no signs for Julian Assange because Julian Assange exposed the dirty war, because Julian Assange shows how the sausage is made in this town. He showed the inner workings of empire. Therefore, the National Press Club and the whole Beltway culture doesn't even consider him a journalist. So when his family showed up, it was only Cornel West, Brother Cornel, who came down from New York to represent. And we have to give credit to Ryan Grimm, even though The Intercept has completely strayed from its original mission and is now effectively the interventionist. So that was upsetting to me. It was especially upsetting at a time when Siggy, the key witness on this phony espionage case, and I'm sure a million speakers have talked about this before me, was exposed not just as a convicted child molester rehabilitated by William Barr and the cats in here, the Justice Department, but as a liar, a fraud, a documented sociopath who cooked up a case that the US government couldn't put together so it could get around the New York Times problem of other journalists using WikiLeaks. So the case is completely fallen apart. But the last time we were here, I know some of you all were here for the last time, it was cold. There was, it was a different moment in the case. The case had already fallen apart. The judge had already ruled that he can't be extradited to here because our prison system effectively amounts to torture in the supermax prisons. We had already exposed, and it should have been on the front page of the New York Times and the Washington Post, that CIA assets had plotted to poison Julian Assange in the embassy. We knew this from the Spanish court where those very assets from UC Global are on trial. We knew that they spied on Julian Assange's lawyer, effectively denying him a free and fair trial in the US, meaning that he can't be extradited. The case has fallen apart so many times, and it's fallen apart again. This is the trial of the century. This is the trial of the media. The future of the media is being decided here in this trial, and the media doesn't even want to say a goddamn word about it. Nobody said anything about this Icelandic report in the media. Look how hard Randy Credico, where's Randy Credico at? All respect to Randy Credico. He's down here trying to pull teeth, calling on the journalists that interviewed him about Russiagate when he was a witness. They all wanted to talk to him. And it's like pulling teeth. And Randy's done so much. He pulled so many people together for that press conference. And all of you have done so much. And it's just really up to us right now to keep this going. It's up to independent media, truly independent media. Because we know that we're next. And you know, it's just like government surveillance, where after 9/11 and the Patriot Act was passed, so many people, they said, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not going to be spied on. I just sit at home. My goal is to get a Costco card. But the rest of us who are involved in actual people's struggles and activism, we understand the stakes. And that's the same analogy applies to the Beltway media. They know they're not going to be next. Their idea of being adversarial is going to the Geneva Putin-Biden summit and heckling Vladimir Putin and then fantasizing about Biden flashing a toothy grin at them, as the Bloomberg White House press correspondent did. Their idea of being adversarial is being adversarial to an official enemy, not their own government. They don't even believe in democracy anymore. They believe in being stenographers for power. They believe in afflicting the powerless and comforting the powerful. And so we just have to call on ourselves and our own resources to keep this going. All of you here are my heroes, and I know that we may have to be here again, but I feel like we're making progress. We're being listened to because we have an actual grassroots audience that the Washington Post and the New York Times don't have. We're speaking for actual people, just like Julian Assange did. So, you know, it's our duty to continue what WikiLeaks started, to continue to provide people with real, transparent access to how empire has made it to get in the way of this empire. And right now, that's what we're doing. So thank you all for being here. You all are my heroes. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Max. Appreciate it. Everybody give it up for Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone. And the Intercept fucking sucks. Okay, so next we have the amazingly talented journalist, also from the Gray Zone, Anya Parenpo.
Thanks, Misty, and thank you, Misty, just for coming all the way here. She just drove. She's driving back because she's so committed to the cause. A round of applause for Misty. And everyone else that's here, too, thank you so much. I think as a journalist, this is the most important cause, singularly, that I can work on or stand for, and that is to free Julian Assange, protect whistleblowers, and make sure that the ability for all of us to continue to challenge these powers in Washington, we're standing among them right here in the belly of the beast. And Julian, as Max said, stood here just down the block and revealed the massive crimes of the United States just 10 years ago. And to think that at that time, I remember he was celebrated by the media. The New York Times was working with him to publish the leaks because what he had contributed was rightly recognized as a treasure trove to any journalist. And now to see them standing silent in silence and refusing to speak out for his case is really a shame. And I don't want to repeat myself, even though I've spoken at several of these events before. I just wanted to emphasize the power that Julian Assange and the influence he even had on me as a reporter. I remember when the State Department leaks first came out, there was a ton of information in there about how the government of Ben Ali in Tunisia was corrupt, and it was revealing a lot of crimes that the Tunisian people, they understood to be true, but they'd never actually seen the State Department cables boasting openly about the crimes of that government. And within weeks, there was an uprising, an actual revolution which overturned the old rule, and it was dubbed in media as the first WikiLeaks revolution. And that was something that really taught me the power of information. Why, if you're someone who wants to see a change in your own society, such as the United States, such as Washington, D.C., where I walk down the streets, and every week it seems as though the tents multiply of the homeless living across the street from the State Department, the greatest symbol of U.S. imperialism in, I think, the entire country in the world, and then you have people actually living in tents across the street from it. How more clearly can you see the fact that the people of this country are sacrificed in order to uphold the military, uphold the empire, and to perpetuate the crimes that Julian himself was exposing? And that is the only thing Julian ever did wrong in the eyes of these people, because they know that if people here woke up, their power and their hold on power would be very, very limited. So finally, I just wanted to emphasize again that the reason that the judge, Barretzer, did not extradite Assange to the United States is because she was concerned that he would actually be tortured here. Max mentioned the event at the National Press Club yesterday. A few years ago, I was also in that room, again with Dr. Cornel West, because he was here to deliver a letter to the Obama White House asking for them to release Jeffrey Sterling, another casualty of the Obama era prosecution of whistleblowers and leakers. And Jeffrey Sterling was actually someone who had suffered from a heart condition, and he was denied medical treatment while in prison. I remember interviewing his wife. She would be tearing up. She was actually concerned for his life. And this is exactly what will happen to Julian Assange if he is brought to the United States. Belmarsh is one thing. The United States, their goal is to get him here. And you hear the fear in Stella Morris's voice and the family of Assange when they rightfully bring up the case of even John McAfee just a few weeks ago, who died in his cell. Either he committed suicide, and it was because he was going to be extradited to the United States. And anyone who sees that as their future sees that their future is gone. And so that's why Stella Morris said we have to speak out to make sure that doesn't happen to Julian, and that they do want him dead. I mean, that is what his father said yesterday at this event. It's very real, the threat of against Julian's life if he is brought to the United States. So that's why we're going to continue to come out here and demand that he's not extradited and that he is free. Viva la información.
Thank you so much, Anya. Just so everybody knows, Ben Norton's also here. He's choosing not to speak, but thank you for showing up. Also from the Gray Zone. The Gray Zone's amazing. They've been, I know, Max, I tried. Oh, okay. Come on, Ben. Sorry, I just totally put you on the spot. I'm not actually sorry. I figured I could get Max and Anya to pressure you a little bit on that. Everybody, Ben Norton from the Gray Zone.
Hey, I was filming. We're going to be publishing a video on this. I want to talk about an angle that's not emphasized enough. You know, when Julian Assange is acknowledged in mainstream corporate media, and he rarely is, he's frequently referred to supposedly as a hacker, which is absurd. Everyone knows Julian Assange is a journalist. Julian Assange is one of the most important journalists in the world, really in history. Julian Assange has published countless stories, important stories, that are much better than anything you would see in the New York Times or the Washington Post, because he's actually exposing things that the US government don't want you to know. Supposedly journalism in a democracy, in scare quotes, is supposed to show what the powerful are doing so that the citizenry can be informed on what the ruling class is actually doing in their society, and they can supposedly act and vote accordingly. In the United States, and in many so-called democracies, the media is actually just a handmaiden of the ruling class. They just say exactly what the US government wants, what Western governments want. They say exactly what the CIA wants, what MI6 wants. And what's so Orwellian about this case, and honestly, something that you couldn't even imagine in a dystopian movie, because if you did it, people would say it's just too on the nose, is that Julian Assange is not even a US citizen. This is something that we really need to stress when we talk about the situation with Assange. Not only is he a political prisoner being tortured, and I want to stress this point, Julian Assange is being tortured according to the top United Nations expert on torture, Nils Melzer, the special rapporteur. But not only is he a victim of torture, not only is he a victim of arbitrary detention, according to the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detentions, and I want to remind listeners that the UN Working Group's legal definitions are binding. These are binding decisions according to international law. And the UN Working Group said over 5 years ago that Julian Assange was being arbitrarily detained and needs to be released and given compensation. But it's not, I mean, those are extremely important points. But I think what's the most fundamentally significant point about this case is that with the precedent that this institution behind us is trying to establish, they're trying to say that the US government is a global dictatorship that can imprison anyone in the entire world for violating its supposed national laws. That is a level of authoritarianism that you cannot imagine. That is much worse than Orwellian. I don't even know what you could call it. We're talking about a global dictatorship. It's American, exactly. This is the dictatorship of imperialism. And the case of Assange is not the only one. I mean, the case of Assange is especially terrifying for anyone who's a journalist, for anyone who cares about truthful information. Again, this is an Australian national, and the US government is trying to imprison him for supposedly violating US laws. Of course, through this bogus case and through a kangaroo court that's based on fabricated charges, we know that the lead witness in the US case was working with the US prosecutors to fabricate these charges against him. Siggy the hacker, a convicted child predator, a convicted financial fraudster, an actual medicated sociopath. But what's terrifying is that Assange is not the only case. There are other people who are also political prisoners, and the US government right now is trying to establish a precedent, not only with Assange, but with several political prisoners, to say that Washington has the unilateral right to imprison anyone in the entire world for supposedly violating its laws. Another case that gets even less attention than Julian Assange is that of Alex Saab. Alex Saab is a Venezuelan diplomat, a special envoy of Venezuela, who was hired to buy medicine and food and other supplies for the Venezuelan people because the Venezuelan population is suffering under a criminal, illegal US blockade, totally illegal according to international law. And this is bipartisan, of course. It began with the Obama administration. Obama absurdly declared Venezuela to be an extraordinary threat to the national security of the United States. Absurd. As if Venezuela is going to somehow attack us. Come on, it's ridiculous. Meanwhile, the US is backing terrorist invasions and this blockade and these criminal sanctions. And Alex Saab was hired to go to other countries to get around this criminal blockade and to buy food and medicine for the Venezuelan people. So what happened? His plane stopped in Cape Verde, and the government kidnapped him at US orders, and he is being tortured just like Julian Assange, held in confinement for 23 hours a day, just like Julian Assange. These people are political prisoners, and they're not even US nationals. They're being imprisoned and tortured and held in confinement for 23 hours a day, which according to the United Nations is a form of torture. Prolonged solitary confinement is a form of torture. And they're being held for supposedly violating the laws of the US government. They're not even US nationals. And of course, Alex Saab and Julian Assange are not the only examples. We now have other examples, including the CFO of Huawei, Meng Shawao, who's being held in Canada and being charged with supposedly violating US sanctions. She's not a US national. How can she be held with violating US sanctions? The DOJ behind us is saying that US law is the law for the entire planet, that 7 billion people on this planet are held to account to US law, which is not determined by them. So this is a global dictatorship. They have no right to determine the laws that they're being imprisoned and tortured for. And now the U.S. is saying that it is the right to extradite them and to imprison them for the rest of their lives. And let's not even talk about the conditions, the horrible conditions of the military-industrial complex in the United States and the prison-industrial complex and all the other complexes, where we see that in these privatized for-profit prisons, we see that people are being held in prolonged solitary confinement, a form of torture. We see that people are not given adequate medical attention during a pandemic. Julian Assange was not given adequate medical attention. And we see that, again, this is someone who's held in a British prison, who's not a U.S. national, and it's a British maximum security prison, and he's with so-called terrorists, and we should, of course, challenge whether they're actually terrorists. But so basically, the British government is saying that if you publish truthful information that expose war crimes, because that's what he did, that's why Julian Assange is being punished. He never committed any crime unless the U.S. government says that publishing truthful information about its crimes is a crime, and that's what it's saying now. So, I mean, this is such an Orwellian case that if you were to write a science fiction book 20 years ago, people would say that, no, that's ridiculous, that could never happen. But again, this case cannot be more important, not only for us as residents in the United States, but for people around the world. Because if the DOJ if they succeed, if they can throw Julian Assange, an Australian national in prison for supposedly violating its law, and again, he didn't violate any laws, then what they're saying is not only is the freedom of the press dead, not only is freedom of speech dead, but freedom for anyone in the entire world is dead, and that establishes the worst judicial precedent possible, and the U.S. can round up anyone it wants for criticizing its policies, for criticizing its laws. It doesn't matter what their nationality is. It doesn't matter whether or not they actually violated its laws. No, I mean, this is absolutely beyond authoritarianism. There's no word for it other than a global dictatorship. And that's why we need to stand with Julian Assange, because he's not only fighting for our freedom as people in the United States, he's really genuinely fighting for the freedom of people all around the world. So thank you for coming out.
Thank you so much, Ben. And a huge shout out to the Gray Zone. Max, Anya, and Ben are all here, but the entire team at Gray Zone does an amazing job of covering the Assange case. So give it up for Gray Zone. Okay, up next we have the host of Frank Analysis and my dear friend, where's Franco? Franco!
All right,
Oh man, what a hard act to follow, you know, going after people that I admire, like Lee, like Morgan, like Anya, like Max, like Ben, like all these people that have their platforms, you know, their journal outlets online. They inform people. These groups grow over time. You know, people hang out on YouTube channels where these journalists come on and talk, introduce that to, you know, more normie audience. That normie audience becomes more informed, and then those online communities turn into on-the-ground communities. That's what we're seeing here right now. And not only do I admire these journalists, these, you know, commentators that bring these journalists on to inform our audience, I admire the audience. I learned so much from my audience. Josh Davis, who's the head of the Action for Assange group in DC. You know, he's here right now. Shout out to you, brother. Steve Poikonen and everybody else at Action for Assange. They were able to, you know, have their vigils every week and inform their audience. You know, then they get invested, they discover other journalists. And then we have groups like this. We have websites like Discord, where these people can get together, they organize, and then they meet people that live near them. And that's what Josh did, right? You and Jordan, you guys got together, you formed this group, and now we're here. And I just want to say, until Julian Assange is freed, we're not freed, right? Because are we free if we're being lied to by authority? Are we free if we can't challenge authority? If we can't ask them questions? And as they try to form these team sports, scaring one group about how Russians are the bad guys, like Russia, the country's gonna like take over, and then the other side thinks that China's gonna take over. And then these people stay divided, they're not told the truth. Their minds aren't freed by knowing the truth, right? So that's all I can say right now. I haven't been sleeping well. You guys put me on the spot here, going after all these amazing people who I admire, and I just want to say, free Assange. All right. What was that decision?
No extradition.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Franco. MCSE Network, give it up. Okay, next we have from Covert Action Magazine, Louis Wolf. Get on up here, Louis.
The crimes of this institution behind us and that one in front of us are endless. The list is endless. And I'm talking about real crimes, not on paper, real crimes. The history of American war, we don't just talk about endless wars today. The wars that go back to the beginning of this country, all under the name of freedom, defending freedom. The other part of that message is defending our way of life. Hear me now. What is that? That's a tissue of lies. The way of life that they claim to support is built on lies. One of the things that we do in Covert Action Magazine is we've been doing it since 1978. My co-founders Ellen Ray and Bill Schaap, together with William Kunstler, the great revolutionary lawyer, Michael Rotner, another revolutionary lawyer, John Stockwell, the famous CIA whistleblower, Ralph McGehee, another CIA whistleblower. And so what we do is to try and bring out the truth. We have written 6 major investigative articles since the inauguration about that man in the White House. You know what I mean. That man in the White House advocated in public to place Philip Agee, a CIA whistleblower, the famous one, who's still a member of our collective, put him in prison. Well, I'm sorry to have to say that I also was pointed at by Joe Biden in the Statuary Hall in Congress after they were passing the law to criminalize the research I did from open sources, not from a single classified document, the names and careers of CIA personnel. We exposed over 2,000 of those people, not to get them killed, as the CIA would claim, or has claimed, but to prevent the criminal activities against the countries of the world. Right now, Covert Action Magazine is preparing for an upcoming trial of a man by the name of Daniel Hale. How many people know his name? Yes. Daniel Hale is a very courageous 26-year-old man who was involved in the drone program in Iraq and Afghanistan. He was recruited believing the hype, believing the lies that he was told, that he was saving democracy and so forth. Daniel Hale faces likely at least a 10-year prison sentence for blowing the whistle on the drone operations, which he, it's the first to document that more people, the people, supposed targets of drone operations, the so-called bad guys or gals, where in fact the drone operations kill 90% by their own figures, innocent people, men, women, and children. If you go online, you can find photographs of those innocent victims in Iraq and Afghanistan. I was just searching for some photos this morning, and I found a line of children, 12 children long, that were killed by a drone strike. This is the name of American imperialism in action. People must understand that American imperialism is about empire. And that's not a rhetorical word, that's a factual word. Empire is what results from the American doctrine, which is so central to American foreign policy, and it's called, quote, what every president has said, and including the present one, including all the way back, has said, the United States is the greatest nation on the face of the earth. Well, I'm sorry, that leaves out about 191 other countries. It's time that we count these people as what they are, liars. I will also add that it's time for Julian Assange not to be extradited, but to be freed and pardoned, and totally his charges against him should be wiped clean, wiped clean. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Louis. Okay, next up from the National Lawyers Guild, we have Ann Wilcox.
Thank you very much. I'm embarrassed to even be speaking after these people, but no, but I just want to say that NLG, of course, has fought for whistleblowers and people like Assange for many years, done the legal observing and representation and so forth. And it's important to remember that the Obama administration refused to indict Assange because it was the New York Times problem. They'd have to arrest the head of the Washington Post and the New York Times. But unfortunately, the Biden administration is dragging its heels and not taking that same approach. And Merrick Garland is actually one of the slowest attorney generals we've had in a number of areas, civil rights and so forth. So we have to keep the pressure up. I just wanted to underline a lot of what Anya said about if you do a trial in the U.S., the evidence just doesn't come in. Anyone who's heard John Kiriakou speak, he'll talk about the evidence. It's all classified. And defendants end up just taking a plea just so they can see the light of day in a few years or some years, because otherwise you're in prison for decades. And as other analysts, I just heard, I'll quote somebody else, another analyst, Matt Ho, pointed out, the entire dirty war is classified. All the drones are classified, everything. So there's literally no evidence that whistleblowers can bring into a court. So it's an entirely rigged system. And we just have to keep up the political pressure, as people have been saying, to get Merrick Garland off the dime and do what he should do. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And real quickly, I forgot, Franco mentioned something about Action for Assange today, or this week is actually we turned 2 this week. Selfishly, I'm going to say congratulations to us for turning 2. We've been doing the vigils twice a week, every week, for 104 weeks. And shout out to Andrew Smith, who couldn't be here. Dude's amazing. We miss you. It's not the same without you on the megaphone, my friend. Okay, so next up we have Jordan Renee, who you heard earlier performing her amazing music. And she's also from DC Metro for Assange. And so she's going to say a few words.
What do we teach so they can face tomorrow? What do we teach so war is gone? Because I know they're asking me every day, is my life worth the living just to die in vain? That is a song it's a gospel song or something, but I changed the lyrics to fit how I was feeling as someone working with students, elementary school students in Miami. And I tried to we were doing remediation work, and I tried to help them feel like what I was talking to them about, what the reading lessons, whether it was the craziest stories or just the most mundane stories, letting them know that it is important that you gain these skills, because one day you're going to want to be independent, and you're going to want to know what to do with your life. You're going to want to have your own independent mind, and I tried to help instill that in them as much as possible. And some days, it was hard because they were really looking at me, especially times running up to the lockdowns. They were just looking at me like, what is this all for? What do I tell them? Because I'm sitting here in February 2020, just seeing all of the ridiculousness happen, whether it be, you know, Trump trying to do that stuff with Iran, or, you know, the Democratic Party just completely running the show as their private organization of just picking whoever they want for the primary, and just other stuff in general, for sure. And it's just like I didn't know what to tell them, because they're looking at me like, what does this all mean? What is life about? And with me, with my age, like, I'm still figuring it out. But I definitely don't want to continue to tell them what, you know, the school system continuously tells them of, like, oh, you know, get a job, go into debt, be real about it. Why would I want to tell kids that? So I tell them to have an independent mind, because I know that that's going to get us where we need to be. I don't know where it's going to be. I don't know what's going to last in the next 20 years. And I never got to see those kids again because everything locked down, and it really upsets me to this day. I studied education policy because I felt that was the most human-centered policy arena, and where I graduated from, they didn't really care about whether you cared about humans. It was just, get that job up here. And someone told me that I need to go into the classroom if I'm going to study policy, because we know how many people are doing things with policy right now who have never been at all to the place that they are governing. And that's schools, that's districts, and everything. And so I'm really glad I did that, and I'm really glad I've gotten the experience of being with humans and knowing and learning how we can become independent people. And a person who helped me with that is Julian Assange, is Edward Snowden. And I thank them so much. And I'll wrap it up real quick and just say, we are all humans at the end of the day. Again, I don't know where we're going to be in 20 years. I don't know what's going to exist. But I know that if we have our independent minds and we speak for ourselves and stand for free speech, we'll get somewhere all right. We'll be all right. And I'm so glad that this momentum for Assange has just been ramped up in the past month since we started DC Metro for Assange, for sure. And also this Home Run for Julian tour. It's been amazing. Thank you so much. If you want to join our Discord, you can. That would be really helpful for us, just gaining more help, so that we can put on more things. We have a lot of ideas, a lot of education that we want to put out, because we need to make sure DC is aware and has a foundation for the Free Julian Assange movement. So thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Okay, final speaker, and then we're gonna have cake, fams. Woo-hoo! Okay, this is Paula. She's gonna be embarrassed because I'm gonna brag on her. She is fearless. She's relentless. I love her. She's from Boston, and they kick ass on a weekly basis. It is true. I'm telling you. So give it up for Paula, everybody.
I'm going to make this really short. In my heart from the very beginning, I always felt that Julian wouldn't be in this mess if legacy media had just reported on the beautiful people who advocated for him. All the beautiful people Julian is surrounded by, and his beautiful family. And the philosophers, the artists, the musicians, the filmmakers. And I think when you follow the artists, you're going to end up in a place of truth. And so this knockoff of David Dormino's beautiful sculpture, Anything to Say, it's a beautiful message. He wanted to invite people to step up on the fourth chair and speak and elevate our voices. So I'm going to end with Julian Assange's words, because as we all know, Julian wrote and spoke very poetically, and this is one of his best. When our buildings are erected by the corrupt, when their cement is cut with dirt, when pristine steel is replaced by scrap, our buildings are not safe. And when our media is corrupt, when our academics are timid, when our history is filled with half-truths and lies, our civilization will never be just. It will never reach to the sky. You can't build a skyscraper out of plasticine, and you can't build a just civilization out of ignorance and lies. I want to thank everyone for showing up, because in my world, it's all about showing up. Thank you, guys.
I lied, I'm sorry. We have one more speaker. Leo Flores from Code Pink would like to come up and say a few words. I'm sorry, we didn't intentionally miss you. My apologies. So give it up for Leo, please.
Thanks. I thought it was off the hook for a second. I mean, long before Assange came about, we already knew that the empire is brutal, that it's hypocritical, and that they're completely incompetent. I mean, this is a country that routinely preaches international law, democracy, and human rights, but routinely violates all three in its unquenchable thirst for power and control over everyone. But the thing that Assange gave us, and when I say us, I mean peace activists, I mean people who want a world without empire, he gave us proof of all three of those things over the last 20 years in the wars in the Middle East, and over the last 20 years in terms of embassy leaks and U.S. policy all over the world. When the WikiLeaks came out with embassy cables in roughly 2010, I spent hours and hours reading all of the ones that were related to Venezuela. That's where I'm from. And there, it was very clear that, first of all, that we were right in terms of what the U.S. was doing in Venezuela. We were right in terms of identifying their strategy, which was basically to divide the movement of the Bolivarian Revolution and to divide the Latin American left as a whole. But also, what I saw in there was a bunch of analysts who are in foreign countries that don't take any time to learn about the peoples and cultures that they're trying to either invade or overthrow. And then they therefore make terrible mistakes that result in policies that harm people everywhere. And when we talk about Assange, we have to really keep in mind the context too. The context of an attack on the media, that any sort of media outlet that challenges the official narrative from Washington, whether it's Press TV getting its website taken down, whether it's Sputnik or RT reporters having to register as foreign agents, whether it's other websites like the Gray Zone, coming under attack from frivolous lawsuits. There's a huge attempt right now by the U.S. to control what's being said, and Assange helped to break free from that. And we at Code Pink are going to stand with Assange, and we're going to fight for Assange for as long as it takes for him to be free. And thank you so much to the organizers here for being so strong and their level of support and solidarity for Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
Okay, everybody, we have cake. Julian's birthday is July 3rd, so we're celebrating a little bit early. So if you guys want to come over, Jordan and Josh are going to help get that all passed out if anybody wants some cake. And maybe we could sing some happy birthday for Julian Assange. What do you guys think? I'm not going to sing because I'm terrible. Maybe, hey, Jordan, you're the singer. Come forth.
Happy birthday. Nobody wants to hear that.
1, 2, 3. Oh no. 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Julian Assange. Happy birthday to you.
Free Assange, get some cake.
Awesome, guys. Thank you all for coming.
I'm the only one. Team Founder. They all flat out.
Lighter? Anybody have a lighter? Lighter? Quiet, I can work.
Yeah, that's ours, man.
Yeah. That's one of our lighters. Yeah.
It's been expropriated. It's now common property.
There we go.
The lighters are always coming.
The website, the group that I'm with is actionforce.com. Yep.
You
There's
still
a bunch
filming?
of different
Yeah.
maybe. I'm not
You guys ended
I can
yours?
write it down for you, or-
My laptop died.
Oh yeah, this is
And nobody else was. I had to use it to run the stream because nobody else in the crew was.
Yeah, of course. Let me get a marker.
Computer.
You want to give some words to wrap up about everything that went down?
Sure.
All right.
The third.
Steve Poitner. What's going on, Steve?
Hey, Franco. Hey, Franco's audience. How's it going? We are now at the cake cutting portion of today's program here at the Department of Justice. A fantastic event. Big thanks to Paula and Josh and Jordan and Missy. They were here when we got here, so I'm giving, and Suzanne there. They were here when we showed up, so they get credit for the setup because it was mostly done, and that was awesome. It's mind-boggling to me, Franco, that this case still even exists right now.
Right.
Because we've got evidence in courtrooms of Julian's legal rights being violated, his human rights being violated, his civil rights being violated. And now we have, by admission of the person who gave it, proof of false testimony in the indictment itself. The rest of that indictment, if you guys aren't familiar, is based on a character assassination book by Luke Harding and David Lee, where the claims put forth in it aren't just preposterous, they've been disproven time and time and time and time again. The last little bit of that indictment hinges on medical testimony and prison, expert prison condition testimony by two people who are not American, have not been to American prisons, are not familiar with the American prison system, and who never examined Julian Assange. So the case itself is built on a complete house of cards, and Franco, we just had a really strong breeze. So in a normal world, this would already be dismissed on its face.
Mm-hmm.
Since we live in a fucking cartoon, we need everyone watching right now to scream bloody murder about this. Not just at the people who you watch, but at all of the outlets that you don't. Because this case has to be tried in the media now. We're never going to be able to rely on the court system. The court system is corrupt as fuck. John Kiriakou told us about the kangaroo court in Eastern District of Virginia, the espionage court. We know what Julian Assange would be facing if he was brought here. So what you guys see right here, where there's people here, and they're doing this thing where they gather for a common purpose, regardless of their own personal political affiliation or thoughts about politics. And they're taking a stand for free press. Really need you guys to do that. There's a number of events going on. Saturday, July 3rd, Julian Assange's 50th birthday. Go to the Twitter account at Candles for Assange for all of the dates and locations.
Well said, brother. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. My stomach hurts a little bit. I'll eat later, yeah. Alright. We got the gray zone over there. Alright. What's going on, guys? Yeah, just gonna... Yeah, nah. I'm talking to everybody here. So I'm just gonna end here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Share this video far and wide. Also share the videos for the other angles that were captured of other people who are live streaming here. I really appreciate you guys. So yeah, take care, guys. Keep up the great work. You guys are doing amazing work, not only just by watching and getting informed, but you guys are doing amazing work by being a part of these online communities, growing them, not like being on Discord, and keeping those relationships together, and also sharing information to each other, opening up people's minds. Like, all of us are going to come from different places, but as we maintain these communities and grow them, we're gonna help our brothers and sisters, you know, be more informed and become more conscious as well, and then that becomes a domino effect. Then they inform more people. All right, so we're gonna keep that up. That's why I always say at the end of the show to stay informed, and I know you guys are gonna do that. Stay informed, everybody. I love you all.